The truth is we're a lot closer to like a Weimar Germany. Like the end is nigh. Everybody's trading and gambling, all day and night long to try to get ahead. Our government's very, very corrupt. That's ultimately why we're here. You just don't own anything. You have a debasing monopoly money from the government. Swap out fiat currency for Bitcoin wherever possible. If you're deterring people from even trying to self-custody, to me, you're not a Bitcoiner at all. If Bitcoiners are doing what they say they're doing, which is holding and not selling, is it really that painful, for it to go down? It just only goes up. And if you're denominating in Bitcoin terms, you're up. I think the way to have a clear goal in mind is to try to fix the money. That is the root cause of most of the corruption and the problems that we face. That's an opportunity that we don't even deserve as a culture, but oh my God, we're gonna get it again,
Greetings and salutations, my fellow plebs. My name is Walker, and this is the Bitcoin Podcast. Bitcoin continues to make new blocks every 10 minutes, and the value of one Bitcoin is still one Bitcoin. If you are listening to this right now, remember, you're still early. This episode is brought to you by Blockware. What if you could lower your tax bill and stack Bitcoin at the same time? Well, with Blockware, you can. New U.S. tax rules let miners write off 100% of their mining hardware in a single year. So earn Bitcoin daily while saving big come tax season. Get started at mining.blockwaresolutions.com/Titcoin. Use the code Titcoin to get $100 off your first miner when using the Blockware marketplace. This is not tax advice, so go speak to the team at Blockware to learn more. That's mining.blockwaresolutions.com/Titcoin. Head to the show notes for links to find the show on centralized social media platforms and on Nostr, or just go directly to bitcoinpodcast.net. You'll find it all there. And kind reminder that you can support this show by becoming a paid subscriber on Fountain. Or don't, Bitcoin doesn't care, but I sure do appreciate it. Without further ado, let's get into this Bitcoin talk. I'm back and forth on this. On the one side of it, my thought process is, well, having a seed is having that private key is really important. And mnemonic seeds were a really great innovation in that they allow us to take that seed and very easily store it somewhere and go anywhere with it and reboot, in a hardware agnostic, vendor agnostic way. That's super powerful, right? That said, it's the majority of people, the vast majority of people aren't going to care or necessarily want to, or perhaps cannot even necessarily be trusted. So I see the argument on the other side. I want to have a seed phrase, right? I want to have that ability, to take it anywhere. A lot of people just maybe don't care. And the majority of people, I don't even think are going to self-custody Bitcoin. I think that's just not going to happen. We know we don't have enough UTXOs for everybody. So it's I do feel that they're filling a gap, but it's it's like with everything, there's trade-offs, right? There are trade-offs, and you have to be honest about those trade-offs and what they imply long-term for you, or your personal sovereignty. And for some people that just, may not be important. It's a slick product. People seem to like it. But everybody's got to make an individual choice. I just don't, and I know this is not the nicest thing to say, but it's not everyone is maybe built for taking complete self-control and self-custody. You know what I mean?
I do. I understand that philosophy. My issue is not I have Bitkeys. I've used them. I got this before they were released. I've been on them a long
Nice.
time. The issue started when they started lying about what they are. They're not self-custody. It's collaborative custody. It's a totally different thing. You depend on them to send transactions, and you give up their privacy trade-offs. So I'm with you. But if they're not gonna be honest about the trade-offs of using their product, that's no good for anyone.
Oh, that's
If they were in the beginning, I think what happened is the person in charge of marketing there just doesn't understand Bitcoin at the level of people who've been, using wallets for years. You can't just call it self-custody. That's not, and you definitely shouldn't encourage people to throw their seed phrases away. I know it's kind of like a rage baity marketing tactic,
Yeah.
and it works for that reason, but it's very, very dangerous. You're encouraging people to use Bitcoin with trusted third parties, which defeats the whole purpose. Just go buy an ETF. Why would you even fuck around with this? Like, what's the point of it? If you're not willing to put in, like, if you can understand that this is a 2 of 3 multi-sig, if you know what that is, you're smart enough to set up a 2 of 3 multi-sig. You know what I mean? Like, it's not
Um,
that hard. It takes 2 or 3 hours. I kind of get it. Like, people in general, like, in aggregate, we're pretty like low IQ species. It's hard for everybody to self custody, but like, I actually am more hopeful. I think if we take on that mindset, it's pretty defeatist, and people won't. Of course, they won't do it. They'll take the easy way out. They'll take the laziness trade off, the convenience trade off every time. And I just always want to push people not to do that. I think if you learn to set up your own multi-sig, and then you try to get a plug and play piece of, a nice trusted third party hardware like this, that's perfectly reasonable. But if you're deterring people from even trying to self custody, to me, you're not a Bitcoiner at all. You're in this for fiat dollars. You're in this for short-term gains. I mean, it's not the first time one of these projects has started out on a great premise, which is like fulfilling a need in the market. We need more competition in the hardware market, and we need like more varied solutions, and we need to abstract away parts of Bitcoin that are complicated. This has done a good job of all of those, but for me, the trade-offs are too high, and the marketing is so disingenuous that it does like a disservice to everybody. Anyway, that's my rant on Bitkey.
I do feel you on the marketing side, because again, I think the initial premise of this is very good, right? And as you said, like abstracting away parts of this that are maybe not necessary for people to get into the nuts and bolts of, but still giving them a solution that's better than keeping their Bitcoin on an exchange, right? But it's like if if the main benefits are lost, if a trusted third party is still required, right? And again, I don't know enough about the signing mechanism on the Bitkey. Like, it is a 2 of 3 multi-sig though, and like presumably you do hold 2 of the keys, right? I'm assuming one on your phone, and then one is the Bitkey itself has the other key, and then they have the third key.
Right. One is on 2 of the keys are on hot devices, which is a problem. So one is on, it's not even Block servers. Block doesn't even custody their own custody. It's on Amazon. It's on AWS. That's where one of your keys is. The other is on your phone, which is the most compromised piece of equipment like in your life. It's the most surveilled, virused out, bugged out. It's a huge security vulnerability. Anybody that's been in Bitcoin for any amount of time, intuitively not to do extremely private things on this device. You have to consider everything on there, spent, cooked,
compromised.
Like compromised completely. Okay, so those are 2 of your 3 keys. That means anyone who can get access to Block servers, which there's no reason to believe that's a particularly difficult thing to do for like an advanced attacker, or the hotkey on your app, or just this device, which there's no physical backup, so you can't lose this. You know what I mean? There's no key backup. So if you lose this, you're shot, and you're completely reliant on Block's infrastructure. And the problem is you don't have a seed phrase, so you cannot unilaterally exit their system. They have a non-standard emergency kind of exit protocol. Like if something goes wrong, you're completely trapped on Blocks. If their GitHub disappears, if you can't even reinstate their emergency software on an iPhone. You have to have an Android. So it's just it's a very convoluted. Like, I promise you, just go look into it, and the more you read about it, the scarier the promise that they're giving you is. At least if you're interested, if you're custodying like serious money, like you'd lose sleep if you lost it. It's a really scary proposition. Something like this, you actually would be safer just leaving your money on Coinbase or Strike or something.
Okay. Yeah. I need to look deeper into it, because like I gotta say, like, it is like a slick looking product.
Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, it looks excellent. Yeah, I dislike the marketing of like ditch your seed. It's like that just feels like a bad intent, or maybe
yeah, like to me, self-custody.
It's a bad result or a bad suggestion. Like we don't want people to do that, because this is an incredibly powerful thing that you can do, where you can unilaterally exit anything as long as you have that seed. It's like, that is true power.
That's self-custody. unilateral exit and unilateral control of your Bitcoin is self-custody. This lose your seed phrase, I promise you this was an idea that originated in California. This is the dumbest idea I've ever heard. Like I saw the first marketing for it in person in Vegas and I was with it's I have to hand it to them. Like it did trigger so many people. I watched people walk by just like what the fuck are they doing, you know? It makes you talk about them. It
Yeah.
makes you but I don't know. We decided the marketing team's real genius was that block can actually block your transaction. So it's like totally accurate. Because they can. Uh anyway, that's yeah, Bitkey's fun.
Bitkey's fun. I mean, clearly the marketing work because here we are talking about it. But I want to
Exactly.
talk about I want to talk about you a little bit too. You mentioned Vegas, and you have been I think maybe for people who don't know, you have been like behind the scenes running conferences for a long time. Like when things are going really smoothly and nice, it's because you and you and maybe X Frog. Usually, you and X Frog would be always the people emceeing backstage. But
Yeah.
can you talk a little bit about how you got into running shows, running conferences, and like you just became like this kind of like staple. And a lot of times, the people behind the scenes, like you don't see them because they're the ones making sure everything's moving smoothly, right? But like, how did you actually get into that in the first place?
Um, started well, I was working at Bitcoin Magazine and we had a conference coming up and we had kind of we were doing bad with revenue. So we needed to invent kind of new products to sell. And so we didn't really reinvent. We just kind of stole the news desk. This is the first time you would have seen a news desk in the Bitcoin space. And we modeled it after like a sports center, like ESPN style news desk. And I brought it to the exhibitor hall floor, and we sold it for like 2-3 million bucks. Um, yeah, to Marathon, um, as a 2-3 year sponsor or something like that. So we built this thing out, and then I decided I wanted to run it because I was looking for. I was bored at the mag. I was running the Twitter. I was running. I'd written 200-300 articles. Been doing a lot of podcasts. I was running I started their YouTube channel, their Rumble channel. So I was doing all this social media stuff, and I was like kind of bored of it. I just didn't find it very fulfilling. And I saw how big the conference was getting. This was like, 2022. And in 2021 was already so big, but 2022 was coming up and it was going to be huge. So I just jumped in and programmed it. Like I just called all the people, called Sailor, like got a hold of everybody I could get a hold of. Like, hey, you have to jump on this desk. Like when you get off stage, come to this place and jump on the Sports Center desk. It's going to be the biggest thing that's happening. And it carried the live stream. We got 2 million viewers like on that across
Dang.
the span of those days on that content. And it wasn't like the best iteration of that that's ever happened. It was messy. It was really messy. People didn't show up. People showed up super angry that they had been bumped, just like I learned all kinds of ways to work with people and not to work with people on stage because they're like all stage presence is so tied up with people's egos that like it's a very delicate job. It's very like you have to be really good at communication and like really patient with people because people show up wanting to fight. I remember the Hive guys, Aiden, the CEO of Hive, like wanted to fight me one time because he couldn't get on stage. He was so aggressive. It was crazy. So you pull up a chair for people, you got to solve the problems and make it work. But I really liked it because it was like this high pace, high pressure thing. And it was like me and Rizzo, Nolan Bowerly, like we're all just having a blast filling in, interviewing Sailor up there. I interviewed, Portnoy before, when he was still cool, and Ben Askren and like all these interesting people, like get them up there talking about Bitcoin. And then there was, I wanted to do something bigger. I was like, well, I want to do like the main stage. So they gave me the Amsterdam conference like as a trial, and I did that. And then I just took over all the conferences. So we were doing 4 conferences a year. I did a couple conferences for Jack as well. For Nostr, did the first ever Nostr conference in Costa Rica. Did one in Hong Kong, in Japan, in Latvia. Yeah, a lot of events, man.
Hey everyone, quick word from my sponsor Blockstream. Right now through the end of 2025, they are running their biggest sale yet, 21% off every Blockstream Jade hardware wallet. No code needed. This is the lowest price you'll see all year on the most trusted Bitcoin-only hardware wallet on the planet. Bitcoiners will always tell you not your keys, not your coins, because they've seen exchange after exchange fail over the years and rug people of their funds. Having a hardware wallet means you never have to worry about that happening to you. Blockstream Jade is the simplest, most secure way to protect your Bitcoin, whether you're brand new or a hardcore stacker. Its sleek, low-profile design, full-color display, and dead simple setup lets you secure your sats in minutes. As your stack grows, Jade scales with you, air-gapped setup, fully functional QR mode with the built-in camera, native multi-sig support, and tons more advanced features. Head to store.blockstream.com right now. The 21% holiday discount is live now through December 31st, and you can use coupon code WALKER for an additional 10% off. Stock is limited at these prices, and once they're gone, they are gone. Secure your wealth today before the next leg up. Grab your Jade today at store.blockstream.com and rest easy like Satoshi intended. Now, back to the show. It's the Nostr unconference, Costa Rica, was that was a special time. That was like it feels like one of those things you're going to look back on. And I mean, I already kind of do and just be like, wow, can't believe that was a thing that happened and that I was at and like aware of at this time. And like, what a vibe there. And now, I think there's been, like, looking at Nostr specifically, a lot of people are maybe like disappointed about, say, user growth more broadly, just thinking like, oh, it's kind of like stalled out. I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing at like right now. You still have a really highly active cohort of people who are on Nostr every single day, like all day, all night, across the world, all time zones, using a patchwork of different applications of end clients, and who are, then you've got all the builders who are like making that possible. And so to me, it's like, when the masses eventually do really come to Nostr in size, at least the infrastructure is going to actually be built up more, because like that's the thing about an open protocol and a lot of open source software devs hacking stuff together. It's like there's a lot of stuff that moves, maybe is less immediately reliable than some centralized platform build out, but is long term far more resilient. But it takes a little bit longer to get there. But I don't know. The vibes on Nostr continue to be good for me. I don't know about you.
I think it's good. I would definitely be among those that are probably impatient and disappointed with the growth. I don't know if it'll succeed or not. I think for what it offers, like, it's succeeding today for like a couple people. I enjoy it. I don't particularly enjoy scrolling it. I find it pretty boring, to be a little bit bearish. But I enjoy posting there because people are so friendly and nice and genuine. And I do think there's something to be said for like economic value of tipping over like virtue signaling with likes. I think I got pretty bored with everything that was being developed on it. Like, there's a lot of this stuff is very niche, and just doesn't have users. So it's like, okay, we're early, now what? And I think the answer is like, we just keep doing our thing and hoping for like a breakout. Like, I think I got really interested in something more like a BitChat, which is like, okay, this uses Nostr, but nobody using BitChat knows what Nostr is unless they discovered it through Nostr or something. Like, very few, you know what I mean? They don't know that the backend touches Nostr at all. That's like, okay, now you're getting into a really interesting place where, like, Nostr, in my opinion, has always had this identity crisis of like being so self-absorbed and so upfront technical and affiliated with Bitcoin that it actually turns people off. like I would say you and I had a really similar conversation about, Roxxam. There was so much Bitcoin that was actually turning people off in the programming that who are not in that world. It's like, well, if we want to reach more people, we need to talk about more things. And so I think the one thing I will say I really enjoy about Nostr is there's a couple of people on there, like close friends of mine. Actually, you're included in this because, you'll post like fishing content. Like I really like fishing. I really like outdoor stuff, and I really like shooting video about it, and posting about it just as like an amateur, just like fun kind of hobby or whatever. Um, I don't get anywhere near as much of that content on like Instagram or Twitter, like in terms of engagement and just people swapping stories and giving cool
Mhm.
tips. Like the people who engage in it are really, really into it, which is awesome. And I just feel I don't know, you just feel the authenticity more than you do on a Twitter where those things fall completely flat. If you're not servicing the algorithm exactly how, on the soup of the day kind of algorithm, like it's not going to get anything at all. I tend to get way more engagement on Nostr for whatever reason. Not that that's the metric of success, but if you put in work into like editing these things and putting them out there, if I don't get any return on it, I'm obviously going to just stop doing that. But on
Right.
Nostr, I've seen that just posting a couple times a day, you get a lot of cool new people to talk to. I find people who enjoy jujitsu, people who enjoy Bitcoin, people who enjoy fishing, even spear fishing, like some pretty niche activities. So
Yeah.
I would say, yeah, hopefully those communities are growing out. I don't know if it's the right form factor. I don't know if like Twitter
Hmm.
clone is the way. I really like stuff like
Right.
Zap.stream, like what we're on right now, and I hope that some of these other applications can scale. Like BitChat, really fun, but after the first week, you're kind of like, what would I use this for? It's kind of like probably a good tool for like emergency services or something like that, or people in like disaster zones. But I don't really know day to day. There's a use case for it. We have a product market fit problem in open source tech. We're inventing a lot of things that don't solve any like tangible problem that the market needs.
Yeah, it's well, and like with BitChat, I think you're exactly right that it's not something that I need to use every day. Like I just don't necessarily like I could use it every day, and there's various like geo servers that I could hop on, and I could, but I just like I don't necessarily need to. There's not a reason for me to go in there every day. However, like if I'm if like you've seen this around the world, whether in a disaster scenario or when government is throttling communications during protests or something, and like downloads explode, right? Like they go wild. And so it's like it's one of those things where you're like, yeah, it's you don't need it until you need it, and then it's like, oh wow, this is really useful. I'm glad that I have this P2P tool. But I hear you on the product market fit side more broadly. I think that that's a very fair observation, and I think that a lot of times it's not necessarily like a bad thing. It's just a reality of like, look, uh, just because you can build something really, really, really cool doesn't mean anybody actually like gives a shit about using it. Just because you can create something that's a really interesting technical solution doesn't mean like that you're actually solving that many people's problems. You might be solving like a problem, and some people may really like that. But like with so many of these things, it's like that's really neat, but like I don't know how many people are going to use it. Maybe some will, and maybe that's enough. You know what I mean? Like that's the other thing is like maybe like not everything needs to have this mass appeal. Maybe these micro apps make a lot more sense, and it's like you can just even if your application services a small number of people, like that's still a win. That being said, it's
Yeah,
like like, but then it's also like you need to be sustainable from like a business perspective, unless you are planning on living on grants forever, and
that's the kicker.
that's the other side, right?
Well, that's why like a niche kind of in group can get really excited about these things. But you have to understand these people are engineers, like highly specialized, therefore like pretty highly autistic engineers that are not good businessmen. They live on charity of NGOs, most of which, there's like one or two funders of. There's like two of these things that exist in Bitcoin. They give people money. It's this circular thing of, you get grants, we throw a luxurious party, we invite people to make donations, to give grants, you make applications that never seem to scale. Like, it's like, I don't know, the market would extract, like, and come up with solutions to these problems. But the problem I think that people are having is that they don't turn these applications into businesses, and they're not running businesses. So they wonder why they're having, like, they have unrealistic expectations for users because they're not under the same pressures that you would be in the free market because they're living on charity, um, which is okay. I mean, I wouldn't really participate in it. I'm not saying these aren't ideas that are not worth funding. It's just that I don't know, like how much of this stuff ends up just being, throwing events for each other to have kind of developer parties to throw more events to get more grant. Like, it's just, when does the funding stop? Like, when do you cut someone off? I don't know how you evaluate those things in a sort of NGO funding loop setting. You know what I mean? In the
Yeah.
free market, there's a flywheel that makes a lot of sense. If your product isn't meeting the demands of the market, you'll fail and you'll disappear and you'll cease to exist and your company will die. And that's a good thing. That's what we need.
Right.
So I think, I don't know, I want to be optimistic about Nostr, but I think it might be one of those things, like no one's figured out how to make it into a business. And therefore it's very kind of like small, closed in group of people that use it. I don't know how many. Do you have any idea how many people use it day to day now? Is there any way to
Let's
like
see. There's a
couple
few different
thousand?
places that have. I mean, it's got to be more than a couple thousand, but I don't know. I mean, let me see. Primal had some decent stats on this at one point. Do they still? Let's see.
No, I don't. I'm not always so bearish. I think it's fun to push these
Well,
guys. You know what I mean?
I think it's important to actually like think about this stuff deeply too, right? Like to actually say like, okay, what do we actually need to do? Like if we care about scaling this stuff, if we care about getting more people on board, like what does that actually mean? What does that actually look like? And I think on the point
Yeah.
of like the funding side of things, I would push back on one area of that, which is that I agree with you from the free market perspective of like, that's going to give you the best signal about what is working and what is not, right? That being said, there is something to be said, I think, for having some developers like it's like patronage, during by the
Yeah.
Medici family of Leonardo da Vinci, right? Like if Leonardo da Vinci could only invent things and create art and do like that, if it was profitable at that time, we wouldn't have most of his inventions and art and things he created, right? Because like a lot of them just had no product market fit, like. So I do think that patronage enabled by Bitcoin is a really valuable thing. And in this case, we're not talking about the arts, we're talking about technology. But patronage of technologists, of builders, I think does have a place because it allows them to just be able to solely focus on building. Now, you could, again, to play devil's advocate myself, you could argue that, well, by not being in tune with the actual market itself, perhaps they don't build what is actually going to be needed by the market or
Right.
wanted by the market. But
Yeah.
maybe, I don't know, like I see both sides of this here, but I do think that like that patronage and supporting open source developers like definitely has a place. I agree. Like, I don't know how long it's sustainable. I mean, if Bitcoin keeps going up forever, maybe it's always sustainable. I'm not sure, but it's tough. It's tough.
For me, it's like, I know that I could create an anonymous Nostr account, start posting about developing, and I could apply for a grant for a messaging app and receive that grant within a few months. Like, I know that would not be a hard thing to do. Everyone who wants funding in Nostr gets it. Any like serious proposition. Okay, but like, who in the world needs another messaging app? Like, how many fucking messaging apps do I have to have on my phone to be able to talk to someone? You know what I mean? Like, there's no market demand for this at all. Nobody needs it. I do need better privacy. But it turns out there's not a way to do that that's also convenient and not like a technical hurdle for most people. So the problem is the most private, like I can't get anyone to use Simplex. There's no discovery there. I can't find people on it. And I surely I have to ask someone to download something, which is extremely suspicious. It like kills itself when you try to ask someone to use this privacy tech. You send them a link and they say that's suspicious. I'm not downloading that, no way. So I just, yeah, I wish there were more entrepreneurs in the space working with Nostr from that lens. And I wish there was less funding available so that they could get serious about the projects they're proposing. I think the same about Bitcoin. Like I don't there's no way that Bitkey is a profitable company. It's just not possible at this stage. You know what I mean? Like you have to look at something like the trade-offs the ledger has taken, or scraping by for a decade with a cold card or something like that to get to a place where you're like a profitable real company. I think that's really what makes these products better. Like when you take it outside of a free market environment, you end up with weird like altruism kind of utopia tech, like blue sky, like sort of closed communities, and it's not going to scale. You know what I mean?
Okay, that's actually a fair point as it relates to blue sky. Like, boy, I have not opened that up in a while. I like sometimes I will. I opened it up like right after Charlie Kirk was assassinated. That was a mistake to open that up.
Oh my God.
That was not a good time to open that up.
No, there's just sick people on that app.
There are, and that's true everywhere, right? Like no matter, like it's not just unique to blue sky, but I think your larger point of, and this is very fair, and I don't know how this gets reconciled, because on the one hand, you want certain like freedom, open source, you want open source freedom tech to be built, right? Like that's generally a good thing. If there are technologies that are being leveraged, new protocols being built, new applications being built on top of protocols that are already out there and open, and this is all open source, that's like generally just a net positive.
Yeah.
But the difficulty is that like, okay, like, and
there's
then
no money in it. People don't pay for it.
And I guess that is the problem. But if you take it to the next level though, perhaps it's like we are still so early in so much of this right now that maybe, some of these things that are being built out, like don't necessarily need true product market fit or widespread adoption right now, but because they are open source, the genie is now out of the bottle. Now the people that are going to be coming along in the next 5, 10, 20 years have a foundational protocol stack of freedom technologies to be able to build on. And they're the ones who are going to find product market fit. They're the ones that are going to, develop things that are people are genuinely clamoring for. But right now it's just like it's the same thing with Bitcoin. Like Bitcoin exists and has existed and is talked about by not just random magic internet money nerds anymore, but fucking Larry Fink of BlackRock and Donald Trump are talking about Bitcoin, right? And still barely anyone owns Bitcoin. And even of those who quote own Bitcoin, a far, far smaller percentage have Bitcoin in self-custody, like really own Bitcoin, not just an IOU. Right. So it's like, and this is, we're talking about money. We're talking about a thing that makes you wealthy. And most people still don't care. You know what I mean? So like, how can we expect them to care about like, encrypted messaging and relay-based communication models? Like, of course they're not going to give a shit. They don't even give a shit about a thing that's going to make them rich. Why would they care about something that just does something so small as to protect their privacy? Like, a lot of people just don't give a fuck,
There's, and what I really like about what you said there is how long does it take to extract something useful out of this kind of pile of open source tech? Obviously the answer is not, 2 to 3 years. If you think about Bitcoin, it was not invented overnight. Just like it was decades of small like technological achievements that were put together, that were discovered. They weren't even invented. They were just put together. It was like half created and half discovered and put together in a way after decades of cryptographic sort of breakthroughs. There's like 7 core features that just came together in the perfect way to make this thing. And some would argue, for some people it doesn't have what it needs to have. Some would say, it needs to be more private. It doesn't need to be scared. You know what I mean? But there's
Yeah.
The core invention, like, yeah, it was extracted, but it took a long time. The question, I guess, for Nostr is like, okay, how long is that going to take before someone comes along and makes a viable business out of this, that scales? And what will it look like? I'm kind of with, like, I would bet that it has something to do with eCash, and actually like financial networking, and maybe encrypted, communications or mesh networks. Maybe someone can beat out the cell networks over Nostr relays somehow. I don't know. I don't know what it looks like, but I don't think it's going to be the first iteration, right? It's not going to be a Twitter clone.
Yeah,
because
I'm
the
super
world.
bullish on eCash. To that note.
Yeah. Me too. And stables. I think this stuff is, I don't know. It's interesting. It's not stuff that I need in my day-to-day life, but there, that's where it's like we're very financially privileged here. Same thing with stable coins. Like we don't need them. But other people, I know a lot of people that use them every day and need them to get paid, because their own currency is useless. Their own financial infrastructure is way worse than what we have with the dollar.
This is a slight sidebar, but an example of like not needing something until I needed it, and like thinking something was probably just like an over-engineered technical solution that was like, cool for super autistic nerds, but not actually like something that was useful. But then I actually needed to use. I was in Madeira and I was hanging out with some Bitcoiners who were hacking around on stuff. And I was trying to call a bolt for Carl and I. Like it was like, I don't know, like early in the morning at that point. We'd been hanging out, doing some eating of steak, doing some drinking, having a good time, talking about subverting the state. And for whatever reason, like my roaming plan on my phone had just completely like died out. Like I could not get any sort of internet access at all. Neither could Carla. I don't know what happened. We were just like
eSIM.
Didn't matter. Yeah, like we had, but we were just totally screwed. So could not access the internet at all. And we were like, okay, like, can we, like connect to like the Wi-Fi here? And now, granted, this friend could have just given me the Wi-Fi password, but he was like, I want to show you how something works. I'm like, okay, here we go. But it ended up being really cool. It was basically, I think they called a toll gate for the Wi-Fi. So basically you can pay for a limited amount of Wi-Fi access, but how do you pay for the access to the Wi-Fi when you don't have Wi-Fi? Like you don't have internet, you're not connected, right? So how do you do that?
Oh, interesting.
Well, I did it literally by sending him physical eCash tokens offline, by scanning an offline QR code, sending eCash tokens, and then that paid the toll gate. And I was like, okay, like that's actually pretty darn cool. And then I was able, I got the internet and was able to use it. Granted, you could still argue like that's a bit of an over-engineered solution, but it's also kind of not. Like, it makes it really, really convenient to be able to add in to public Wi-Fi this capability, so that people actually can pay for it if they need to. But also just like it's amazing to see what eCash can do, and I like that's one of those things where I'm really glad that there's like Cashew is getting funding, right? And that people building on Cashew are getting funding. Because like eCash to me is like when I see all these Zcash people, especially who are totally organic and not at all just VCs trying to pump their bags, totally organic. But when I see all them talk about like, oh, like can't believe Bitcoiners don't care about privacy. It's like, well, we do. We're just building it in layers, right? And so I think that stuff like eCash is super important, and I'm super bullish on it just because like the shit that it can do is kind of like mind blowing. Like the fact that it is like a bearer token, like it's kind of nuts. And yes, again, trade-offs, right? Trade-offs. Always acknowledge the trade-offs. Like you can get rugged by a mint, but like, are you going to get rugged by every mint all at once? Probably not. But
yeah. I don't know where it fits into day-to-day life, but those experiments are really they're really wonderful and fun, and I think there's a place for that. But I think still kind of the core mission is probably getting people to use base layer money in a way that's
Yes.
not ruggable. I mean, to me, that just seems like the most important kind of cypherpunk thing we can do. I'm not totally with who is the Unchained Capital guy, Parker Lewis, who thinks that Nostr is a distraction necessarily. But I don't know if it's the most important thing, now that it already exists in a way that you can communicate off. Like, I think really when you look at the problems of the world, like for me, I would prioritize, fixing the monetary system and like weeding out corruption and debasement because we could force, conversion to Bitcoin. Like we have forced Bitcoin upon the world and made people adopt it and changed the laws around it and forced it into, treasuries and retirement funds and businesses. And we should continue to. That's like the real silent revolution. And like on the flip side, like the things that, Cash App and Square have been doing are very, very cool.
Yeah.
Forcing merchant adoption. I wish they were a little more forceful about it. It'd be cool. It should be default on. That would be really nice.
Yeah, just push it on for everyone. Like,
Just
why
push
not?
it on. It's an extra QR code. If you're gonna push fucking tips on me everywhere I go, you know what I mean? Like we had a self car wash, like at least like yeah, allow me to pay in Bitcoin everywhere. No, but that's like leaps and bounds. Really leading by example. I think it took a really long time. I'm not sure why it took so long, but it's finally here. I'm grateful for it. I think people need touch points. Like I've always said this, it takes 2 or 3 touch points to be able to understand like emergent technology and to see the need for it. And like you had one with the toll bridge, right? For eCash. Probably plus a couple other ones where you're like, okay, this is an important, like viable technology that I need. For Bitcoin, it's no different. And when you dig into it, it's endlessly complicated. So how do you provide people with those simple touch points? I think that's one of them. I think probably seeing it in the news every day and thinking they could get rich from it is probably the biggest, like kind of bright neon sign about it. But like practical tactile experience with it through devices and payment terminals will probably be the second. Like the first time someone receives it, that's kind of a life-changing moment. If they're smart, if they're open-minded. If they're not, they won't recognize the opportunity.
It is like at least for me, like the first time I got Bitcoin for doing something. Like not just me buying Bitcoin on an exchange, but like getting Bitcoin in return for doing something. I was like, oh shit, this is so much better. Like this is so much, like this is way better than buying it. Like buying Bitcoin is great. Earning Bitcoin is incredible. And like when you do like, and when you see that and it's like, oh, I provided my time and energy I did work for this and now I have Bitcoin like that. You feel like you're living in the future because it's not evenly distributed yet to everyone. And like anybody who is able right now to do any sort of work, and there are, like the gig economy is not such a bad thing if you're getting paid in Bitcoin for the gigs you're doing. Like if you're getting paid in fiat, maybe not ideal, but if you're getting paid in Bitcoin, like you right now, like if you're a pleb stacking right now, I just saw, we just kissed into the 87s right now. And I don't love to talk about price, but we just did. Yeah. 7,816 at the time of recording this, which is do it. Thursday, November 20th. I'll smash by a little bit too right now. But if you're listening to this right now and it's like, oh, Bitcoin's dipping, it's like, you know what? You have a chance right now to accumulate Bitcoin that you like 5 years from now, it's going to be worth more in fiat dollars than it is today. Granted, if you're denominating it in fiat dollars and you're not thinking of it as your piece of the whole 21 million pie, it's, that there's a little mentality shift that's required there. But for now, like we do measure it in fiat, right? Whichever fiat you happen to use. All right. I just smash bought some sats. Boom.
It's double checking that I had any fiat left. I do.
That's my biggest problem.
Yeah.
That's my biggest problem. But like one of the reasons it's awesome to earn Bitcoin is because you don't think about it from a cost basis perspective. You're not like, oh, I bought that Bitcoin for 100K or whatever, and now it's, now it's quote worth 90K. It's like, no, I earned that Bitcoin. Here's how much Bitcoin I earned for the amount of work that I provided. Like, it's a completely different mentality shift there. And I think that it's very valuable for people to experience that. It's hard pricing things in Bitcoin. I initially tried pricing podcast sponsorships in Bitcoin. And the difficulty was most sponsors were like, well, like, that's cool and everything, Walker, but like our accounting department can't really work with that. Can you can you just price it in dollars for us? But that's an interesting thing as well, because then it's like, okay, if you're pricing a service you provide in Bitcoin, that service should get cheaper over time, unless the service you're providing becomes more valuable over time as well. So it's kind of an interesting incentive to create more value for whatever service you're providing than the value of Bitcoin that is appreciated at that same time. It's like, it's a real mind fuck, honestly. Like, it's a real mind fuck.
I don't know if you're setting me up for softball here, but this was the whole premise of why we created Roxum.
I actually wasn't even. I was just music, but yeah, that's a perfect transition.
This is actually the whole premise of why we built the exchange and the media company, is because people who are already on a Bitcoin standard, whatever that means to you, even just generally, like you have a decent amount of Bitcoin, maybe you're really invested in its success and future. They don't think about risk management correctly. Most of the people that I know, people group chat blow me up right now about all the opportunity on the Bitcoin Treasuries market. Like, there is no opportunity there that's correctly priced if it's not in Bitcoin terms. Like, if it's in fiat terms, you're not accounting for the hurdle rate that is the opportunity cost of just holding Bitcoin, which means you're making a tremendous error in all of your trading. And your hurdle rate is actually much higher than you could have ever conceived of. You're trading over long time, especially if you're trading in short time, because the short-term volatility of Bitcoin is very high. So, like, when we thought about this exchange, it's like, okay, we need a place where people can buy and sell oil contracts, gold. First of all, do something with their Bitcoin. Like, if you acknowledge that, okay, there is a way to analyze risk on Bitcoin terms. So there are ways to outperform Bitcoin. We know people do this. We know people try to do this. It's not for everybody. Not recommending people do this, but there's an appetite to do it for sure. There's people that want higher returns than that. They want to put all their capital use, especially like very wealthy people, and also people who don't think they have enough Bitcoin, very, very small holders. They want to catch up. Okay, so how do they do it? Well, if they're going to do it on the stock market, it's going to be a real pain in the ass to mark the price to Bitcoin's price every day, because everything's denominated in dollars, or like the fiat currency of your choice, which is debasing. So if you denominate it in Bitcoin, you can at least price the risk appropriately, and you can make intelligent trades. And I think that's a good and useful service for people, because they're not all, let's just hodl forever and never spend. That's like far from the reality. Like, the truth is, we're a lot closer to like a Weimar Germany. Like, the end is nigh. Everybody's trading and gambling, all day and night long to try to get ahead. Okay, if they can't be, convinced not to do stupid things like that, like, how do we at least give them, tools to do it in a way where they're seeing clearly? And that comes from, I think, pricing things in Bitcoin. And also, at the end, I think people will trade for that way for a little while, and what it'll do is help them realize they're not good traders, hopefully, if they're like self-aware. You know what I mean? Like, I think I was telling you before the show, like, I'm a big Ellen Markets user. I always like to put like $100 on Ellen Markets, $1,000, something like that, trade it for a few months, just to acknowledge how bad of a trader I am. You know what I mean? Like, I do the exact same thing, like in like my Robinhood app, like with I'm not talking with like a lot of money, right? Because my money is, well, Bitcoin is my money. But I'll mess around for like a little while, and like, but again, it's denominated in fiat, and I know that, right?
And so I always come back to like, was I able to actually convert this into more Bitcoin than what I started with? And a couple of times the answer has been yes. And it's like, great. But I also had to like wasted a bunch of time doing that trading. I also had to, pay capital gains on this because I'm using a centralized, exchange. Even if I wasn't using a centralized one, though, I would totally pay the capital gains on it. Just to be clear there, to be very clear for anyone who's an IRS agent listening. But like most of the time, I fucking don't outperform Bitcoin. Like in getting more dollars doesn't fucking matter. I don't want more dollars. I want more Bitcoin. But I'm not a great trader. A couple times I've made like the good trades I've made have been buying like Bitcoin miners when they were really cheap and then waiting a long time and they go up a lot. It's not me like trading back and forth all the time. It's like literally just buying and holding. But it's a good reminder that I'm not a very good trader. And I might be even an okay trader in dollar terms, but I'm a bad trader in Bitcoin terms. And I think that's like what it comes down to, right? Is like if you're measuring your ability in dollars, you're necessarily mispricing that ability. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like the only trades that I've made that are good have been long term, like year plus. And they've been just early opportunities. And yeah, like some of them have been treasury companies, miners last cycle. But it's nothing I would bet the house on. It's stuff that I'll kind of assess like how much would I be comfortable completely losing on this, and that's the max that I'll put in. And it's always, even if it grows at the start, it's no more than 5-10% of the whole portfolio ever goes into something other than Bitcoin. And normally, like if you just pick a random day, I don't have exposure to anything except for it. Because I've found that of all the, couple years that I've been using like whatever, Robinhood or LN Markets, making those trades, there's very few of them where I wound up with more Bitcoin at the end. For those small, high activity where I'm just like, no, I'm just going to let my emotions, my instincts carry me, and I'm going to try to make analysis. And then you give up on your thesis, of course, and ruin the whole plan and do something else. Like, no, the only things that have worked out for me are like buying and just not selling for years, for a long period of time. And then just being very, very early with Metaplanet in particular. But I'm not even sure that the treasuries are a good play anymore. It was just, I acknowledge that was a very high risk thing to do. But the other thing you learn from like using those services and trading, and I think people will learn it from Roxum, from our exchange, is that yeah, sure, you can outperform Bitcoin, but the risk is tremendous. Like the leverage you're going to take on to try to do it is going to wipe you out more times than not. Yeah. So
I appreciate you coming with that perspective because like this is something you're a part of Roxum. I'm also, for anyone who's been paying attention, like I've been streaming on Roxum as well on the media side. And we can maybe talk about that as well because I think it is an interesting approach to getting Bitcoin out in front of more people in sort of a not so in your face way in terms of like your long-term strategy there. But on the exchange side, like, you're literally saying like, look, yeah, you can do this and we make this available, but like odds are it's not going to go well. And like, you should just stack spot Bitcoin. Like that's the thing, like for pretty much everyone, especially if you're just starting out, I think that's why so many people get sucked into shitcoins is because American HODL talks about this, people wanted to like teleport to be an OG, and you think you just make find that one shit coin that's going to 1000x and then you get to be an OG, right? And you'll totally convert it all into Bitcoin once that hits and not just be a degen. But
it's
you're
hard.
Not going to you're not going to teleport to be an OG either. Yeah.
Most of my friends that like we started pretty much around the same time period buying, Metaplanet, and most of them round tripped it completely. They didn't sell. They're still up, but it's like they missed out on 30x in like opportunity because you like the market is plays psychological games with you, and you're not special. You're not immune to them. You're not immune to you're not going to be able to be fearful when others are greedy. You're going to be greedy. This is hard.
Dude, that's the one, like, and that's exactly how I am with everything except for Bitcoin, which is, and maybe that's just getting to a point in my Bitcoin journey where I've separated it so much from everything else that I can actually be greedy when others are fearful. Like right now, I am super greedy. Like I'm trying to figure out how to be able to stack more sats. And I know that we might go lower. We might kiss 58K. I have no fucking idea. 58K is an incredible meme. I think that they've got some sort of 58K cabal that they're running. They're clearly manipulating the price, the 58K memers.
Wow.
But
yeah,
but if Bitcoin does go lower, like, okay, I'm going to do whatever I can to still acquire more. Like that, I am very greedy right now because everyone is freaking out so much. And you know what I mean? Like when I see people coming out of the woodwork, the gold bugs, the fiat economists, and they're just dunking so hard on Bitcoin right now, they're gleeful. That's when I'm like, okay, this is the sign I was looking for. I I DCA every hour of every day with like a small amount.
Nice.
Because like I just spread it out as much as I can.
Yeah.
But then like when these times hit, I'm like, I need to find out how to either earn more Bitcoin or acquire more fiat to buy more Bitcoin. But I need to do hopefully both.
I'm thinking, yeah, that's the correct way to think about it. You got to decrease your expenditure and increase your cash inflows. I thought we were gonna either hit 140 or dump to 70. So, one of those two things hopefully will be true. I think we're gonna go to 70, probably lower, probably 58. That would be awesome. That would be a
That would be
second lease
amazing.
on life. That's literally on life. That's really a second. That's an opportunity that like we don't even deserve as a culture, but oh my God, we're gonna get it again, Like, just
If
multiplying your wealth every year. It's crazy. Like,
if that does happen, like it's going to be painful. Like undoubtedly, it's going to be painful. The vibes will
yeah.
be super terrible. But that is going to be, if that does happen, that is an insane opportunity. Like
Well,
that we don't deserve. You're right.
if Bitcoiners are doing what they say they're doing, which is holding and not selling, is it really that painful? Like for it to go down? It doesn't affect me because I don't sell. Like I have a stack that I just never have sold. I just don't sell it. It just only goes up. And if you're denominating in Bitcoin terms, you're up. If you're denominating in fiat terms, if you can't stomach that number going down, yeah, you're gonna have a rough bear market. Like the reality is most of the time we're in a bear market. It's like very few and far between where we're going parabolically upward on fiat terms. But people need to remember the principle here. Like we're denominating in Bitcoin. If that number is going up, you're good. I promise you, 20 years from now, that's the only number that matters. It's the only number that matters now. The rest of the world just hasn't caught up yet. If you have none, zero exposure, that's just the wrong answer. You just don't own anything. You have a debasing monopoly money from the government. You know what I mean? You need
Yeah.
you need hard assets.
Yeah. It is a funny thing. I think that people when like, and I speak about myself here too, like I'm not immune to, like, obviously I have all the same human emotions when I watch Bitcoin's price that everyone else does, because we are like, the psychology is pretty universal there. And it is, you always have, like, when you see Bitcoin dipping, it's always like, oh, well, I could have bought more sats for my dollars if I would have just waited and timed it perfectly at the bottom. But it's like, you just never are going to time it perfectly. Like very few people ever time anything perfectly. And unless you're willing to, like, even the people that just spend all day staring at charts can't even get it right. And you don't want to spend all day staring at charts, right? Like that's just not a good use of most people's time. And so it's like,
Oh,
you
it's the
just need to be in the market. You just need to be in the market.
Yeah,
Like that's all you need to do. And then
yeah.
go
A
try to
better
create
use
value and
of
do something with your life.
in every case, like a better use of people's time than trying to become a trader or an analyst. Unless you're a savant, and you're gonna build a whole career out of it, like a Dylan LeClaire or something. Unless that's your whole bread and butter and personality and job. A better use of everyone's time would be like, how can I get better cash inflows to buy this stuff, rather than trying to time it. I can't tell you like how many times has this happened to you where, a friend or a family member or something will say they understand Bitcoin, then go on in the next, few sentences to say something like, I'm waiting for it's going to get down to this price, or I'm long like Aave or something right now. And when that pops, I'm going to sell it all. I've had people, neighbors take me out to dinner to tell me about their agentic AI tokens, only to literally lose millions. And I'm just like, you still don't have Bitcoin? Like, no. I'm like, man, you just can't be helped. I don't know. It's just like, have fun staying poor. I don't know what'd you say?
Realized I was accidentally muted. I was.
Yeah.
I would just say, like, it's just like, like this one simple trick, but like really, like the one simple trick is just buy and hold Bitcoin.
Yeah, do the hard thing.
It doesn't have to be complicated. Yeah, but people want to make it complicated. They don't want it to be so easy, because it turns everything that we've learned or haven't learned about investing completely on its head. And it's like, yep, you just have to do that. And that doesn't mean never invest in anything else ever again. Like, you should invest in building businesses and doing things like that. Like, that's a good thing to do. Like you need that, but you should be more shrewd about them. Like, there's not going to be as much misallocated capital under a Bitcoin standard, right? Because people are more careful with how they allocate their capital. And but for you, it's like, especially if you're just starting out, it's like, I beg of you, just please ignore the shit coins. Like, please, for the love of God, ignore the shit coins. Like,
I would say ignore everything that's not like, what value are you giving to the world? Why should someone pay you for your time? Or you're going to end up like these treasury companies, man, where you forgot to have an underlying business, forgot to have a value proposition for people. And when the speculative hype bubble's over, you're just left with nothing. You're left with I saw the new reframing today. The new reframing is, we didn't sell Bitcoin, we invested it. Yeah. We didn't sell our Bitcoin, we're investing it. They won't even say trade. We invested it in greater opportunities. Yeah. Like the dollar? What did you invest it in? You invested in other treasury. So wait, you're buying why wouldn't you invest that in your own company? Like, why? These CEOs are all invested in multiple treasury companies. It's like, why not? Isn't that a conflict of interest? Focus on the thing that you do. Focus on that.
It's going to be interesting. I think with these treasury companies, there's going to be, like, MicroStrategy is in its own league. Obviously, they've got almost 650,000 Bitcoin. They're, have been dumping for a while, but they're going to be one of the last standing, I think, because I think Saylor ultimately gets it at a more fundamental level than most people do, and he's accumulated just such a head start that nobody's catching that. I don't think, anyway. Could be wrong. I don't know. Maybe Tether and Jack Mahler's together, maybe, but it doesn't that's a long way. That
one's very bizarre to me. Yeah, it's really bizarre to me. I don't know that the Letniks don't understand anything about Bitcoin except lending Tether money. I mean, I don't that's just such a weird team to me with no track record, Jack has a track record in the space, but that company as a whole doesn't have a track record besides him going on the news and saying we're not a treasury company, actually. It's like, what? We're going to make a blue chip business. Doing what?
I mean, I think that the companies like that, though, to play devil's advocate, companies like that are going to actually have an underlying business, and it's not just, no, we're just a pure play treasury company and we're just gonna, we're just gonna raise money and buy Bitcoin and that's it. I just don't know. I don't think that ends up living for too long. I think that if you have an underlying business and you're trying to invest in the Bitcoin ecosystem, and maybe you're acquiring other Bitcoin startups, bringing them under your umbrella, you're trying to provide services, for a Bitcoin standard, I think that is a lot more legs than these pure play treasury companies that don't have anything except for, look, we're raising more money to buy more Bitcoin, and just like all these other ones, because that's the thing. There's no differentiating factor there besides how much size can you raise, and MicroStrategy is going to beat you at that. So that, what do you have then? You don't have a moat if you're not the big. MicroStrategy has a moat because they can raise more money. Mm-hmm. All the other pure plays don't have a moat, and MicroStrategy actually has an operating business too. So that's not even fair to say. They it's small compared to their overall Bitcoin holdings, but it's still I think hundreds of millions of dollars a year, which is not nothing.
That's small business. It's $1 billion a year. Yeah. It's a big business.
So they actually still have an operating business, and they have more size and they have more products.
Well,
It's
and
like
he's the
for so many of
longest
these, it's like, what do they
standing.
have?
He's one of the longest standing public CEOs. He has a track
Yeah.
record. He has deep,
Oh yeah.
deep relationships. I don't know, man. It's interesting. I realize how hypocritical it may sound, but like I understand the risk of these things, and I was fully prepared to lose everything on them. It didn't turn out that way. I don't know if I would invest in them again. Um, but it's really hard to recommend that people even look into. They're just such a clown show right now. Um, and I feel bad for, there's a lot of really good people in the space that put everything into them. All their whole reputation, their whole career, they pivoted completely to do this stuff. Um, and I don't know. We'll see what happens. I found actually checkmatey,
Hmm.
um, to be a pretty good skeptic. If you're looking for kind of counter signal, that's not just kind of a big hype machine or media machine about these treasury codes. He's a pretty clear thinker.
I love Checkmate. He's
Yeah,
he breaks things down super well, and I think he has a very nice like just data driven rationalist approach to these things, which I always appreciate. Like he's not going to overhype you. Like he may be very bullish on Bitcoin, but like he's also not going to even overhype Bitcoin. Like he's going to be like, oh, listen, like this is my case. He always says like check the analyst versus check the hodler. Like he separates the two. I wish I could separate those, but I don't have the analyst side, so it's just like Walker the
yeah,
Voltard. It's that's all I got going.
yeah, yeah. I'm kind of in the same boat. My analysis is kind of just feels. I mean, for Bitcoin, it's what I know about Bitcoin. There are people out there. It's interesting. Like as it grows, there are people that come into the space probably within the next year, within a year, short period of time, and they will understand everything that we do and more, everything that we've learned in decades. They'll come out of nowhere. Every cycle, there's new people that come up that they're not spooks. There's nothing inherently wrong with them. They're just new. And it'll surprise you. Like, oh wow, we're really kind of becoming a little bit older guard here, and these guys think about things completely differently. That's what happened this year for me. Like going to these conferences, I was like, this has just become a different thing. It's not cypherpunk anymore. It's a big commercial for treasury companies and basically enterprise Bitcoin, and the collapse of Bitcoin and the capture of it into traditional finance. Um, it's kind of why I don't go to conferences anymore. It's just like I don't know if that's for me. I'm not too bullish on the suit corners. I don't find them very interesting.
Uh, yeah, I just personally hate wearing ties, so like that's not
Yeah,
for me. Like even if I got a suit jacket on, I just not a fan of ties. I can't bring myself to do it. So I guess I'm out of that crowd. I mean, have you or do you still have an interest in throwing kind of, let's say, smaller scale unconferences, like more let's say either developer focused or just like niche, niche within a niche type thing?
yeah. There's one I don't really have time right now. There
Right.
was one I was like asked to help with that I ultimately didn't have time for, like a Costa Rican retreat, which is really appealing to me. I love Costa Rica. I would like to start putting on my own again, um, but more for lifestyle stuff. I think all of us spend way too much time on the computer, and I think people should be practicing, should be exercising and eating well and learning how to source and like harvest their own food, and just like a return to grassroots, basically. Yeah, I would love to do more jujitsu and yoga retreats and bring in Bitcoin, especially like vendors as a part of that, local goods and services, like buy a goat in Bitcoin, slaughter it together, everybody eats it, asados. I've had a lot of fun with small events like that around the world, and I think that's really the way forward because that's like real community. And you take away the important part about those small events is like take away all enterprise value, of them, and everybody will be there for the right reasons and have a good time. You'll end up with good people and put some sort of hurdle on getting in too. It can't just be the most accessible thing, pub key New York. No, it's got to be like in the boonies. You got to put it in Patagonia. You got to make people travel to get
That
there.
would be sick. I would
Yeah.
go to a Bitcoin adjacent retreat in Patagonia. That would be. I've never been, and I would very much like to. That sounds great. This is why beefsteak events are so great too, because it's like, yeah, you're getting a bunch of Bitcoiners together, but it's not about Bitcoin, right? It's about the beef. It's about hanging out. It's about eating meat with your hands and having a good time. And
Yeah.
that's like, I think we start to see more and more of that kind of events. Like it's a decentralization of the conference circuit, because like once you've been to enough conferences, like I still enjoy them because I love hanging out with Bitcoiners, right? I like that,
Yeah.
but that's why you go, is like to spend time with your fellow Bitcoiners in the meat space.
Hmm.
But if you can do that in a way that's less, I don't know, less corporate, it just feels better. Like, you know
Yeah.
what I
I
mean?
think the most fun that I ever have at those events, I've been to dozens of them, is like at the side events, walking around looking
Mm-hmm.
for food, going to the fish market with like NVK and whatever random, developers are around, like just doing nice early morning walk or late night, at a pub somewhere together. Like it's the side events for me. So that just means small, nimble. Yeah, I'd love to just throw them myself, not for any sort of financial gain, but just out of, fun. Like invite, I'm building a place now where I could host, you know, bring out 100 people and plan a couple days or half day activities for everyone to do and try something new together. Um, and yeah, you can have talks and all that, or you could put Bitcoin into practice and have self custody workshops. That's something I really like to give, self custody workshops. I always end up giving some to the people around me, like friends and neighbors and stuff that have small businesses, because I see that organic interest. But I don't know, it's like a practical way to give back, but it's just the most fun, man. Like you can only do so much arguing online and participating. Like I'll have achieved my goals in this space when I don't have to be on Twitter anymore or any of these social media apps. They're such a life drain.
Well, and I think maybe just being conscious of time here, one thing we didn't get a chance to talk about yet that follows from what you just said is it feels like we're entering rage quit season, not voluntary quit season,
But
but
yeah,
but rage quit season. Uh, and I don't know how much of that is just a function of Bitcoin, of like the overall bearishness is just like seeping into people's subconsciouses, and obviously that with the whole core knots thing too, that adds a different layer. But like if Bitcoin were ripping everyone's faces off right now, if number was ripping up, that debate would have a very different tone to it. You know what I mean? But because it's also like, because price action is bearish, I feel like that just like doubles up on people. And I don't know, again, it's
yeah.
like so many people are bearish right now for various reasons, whether it be price or because they think Bitcoin is captured or Bitcoin is doomed. I just continue to be super fucking bullish. I don't know about you.
I should be bullish. I realize I've been taking a pessimistic stance this whole podcast. Not good.
No,
I'm a
it's
very
okay.
I'm a very optimistic person. Uh, dude, Knots is so funny to me. It's just such a source of joy and entertainment. Oh God, it's probably possibly the worst marketing team to ever exist in Bitcoin or elsewhere. I'll tell you a story about the Nazis and about Ocean. Ocean was looking for funding. They're having all these meetings, and they wanted to throw a conference, kind of like unveiling conference. It's a really cool idea at the beginning. This is before a lot of these guys got like a brain damaging virus or something, got obsessed with child porn. But like they were running around like looking for funding, and I was working at Lightning Ventures at the time, giving funding to Bitcoin companies that were good. And I got a call with them just like personally. So I was like, well, I know you want to do an event. I can help you with that. And I know you want funding. I can help you with that. Let's get you talking to Jack, get some funding. So we all like get on this call, and the first thing I wanted to know was like, where have you guys worked in the past? Like, I don't really know where you came from. I know Luke. That's fine. Everybody else, like, what have you done? None of them have any kind of background in running a business. And I was like, okay. For the time of the market, I was like, you're asking for like 10x the valuation a company in your position with no real plan to generate revenue would ask for. Like you're asking for a tremendous valuation, a tremendous amount of money up front. You're trying to raise $5-10 million. Okay, so what have you guys done in the past? No real answer for that. What are you going to do with the money that we will give you? Let's say we give you a couple $100,000, couple $1 million. Like, what are you going to do with the money? What are your plans for the money? No answer from anyone on the Ocean team. Had no plan for the millions of dollars that they raised. I doubled down on that. Just like, what, you don't have any, just tell me something. You gonna hire anyone? Like, what's the plan here? Like, how, this is a startup. Like, what are you gonna do? How many engineers? How many? What are you gonna pay them? What are you paying yourselves? We need 200-300K a person per year. We need to hire, these engineers are going to be very, very expensive. Okay, how many do you need? What do you need them for? What's the product? It was just clear from the get-go that it was just a really poor business idea. And if you just go back to like how we started the conversation, it's just like this thing would never survive on a free market. The only reason they exist is because Jack gave them charity. Because it was an interesting idea. I could support the idea in theory, but they've lost their way. This is not about mining anymore. It's not about decentralizing mining. It's not about running Ocean, and it's the most disastrous like marketing campaign I've ever seen for a company. These are like totally irrational, like unhinged, like very deranged people. Like you just read what they're writing for a day or two between any given day. It's not like a one-off, oh, mechanic had a temporary bout of insanity. We can forgive him. It happens to the best of us. Bitcoin is high pressure and it's hard to have a failing startup in the space. I feel for the guy. No problem. No, it's every day. You show up with that same energy and accusations and calling people out and rambling about child porn every single day. It's like, okay, this is the like severe physical and mental illness, like on all fronts, the whole team. I don't know how they're going to rate. They're going to use up all that money if they haven't already. So I'd be interested to see what happens. I've been asking, no one will answer me, but like, how's revenue? I did invest in Ocean because I wanted to support the idea. Even though they had no answers for what they're going to do with the money, I was like, oh, we'll give you some money, see what happens. I don't know. I don't know how much money they'd have. I'd love to know if somebody could tell me if they're making any money. But man, it's a mess, but it's very entertaining at the same time. It's like our own little, Epstein files. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and quite literally now too, with everybody being like, "See, look, Epstein was funding all the core developers," and it's like, all right, like that. It's through like the MIT Media Lab, right? And he was giving money to the Media Lab, who was then funding some core developers. It's like I'm not saying that there's nothing there, but it's like the implications that are drawn from that. It's like,
Yeah, think about Jeremy's job at the time. It was just to go and ask people for money. And of course, everybody would ask that guy for money. All of them. Like, I don't think he was engaged in anything nefarious. I think his job was to go find money for this lab, and he did.
Yeah, man, it's like, boy, I would just love to see. We've got Bill and Keone, the Samurai Wallet devs, who are now both been sentenced to spend multiple years in prison, massive fines, all these things. Meanwhile, the Jeffrey Epstein's bankers at JP Morgan Chase just paid a slap on the wrist fine for, admitting that they were aiding and abetting, sex trafficking and laundering money for this guy. But nobody goes to jail there. Like that's just a cost of doing business. That's a cost of doing business. It's like when these big banks launder money for the cartels and they're like, oh shit, you're right. Okay, we'll pay the fine. and then like we'll just keep doing it. Like it's so insane to me that you've got this incredible double standard where you just like you'll just forgive a big bank for laundering money for a sex trafficking, blackmailing,
Yeah.
probably government asset, not going to say which government asset guy, but then a couple of guys who write open source software, you slam them with money transmitter license, failure to get a money transmitter license, even though the institution responsible for issuing those licenses said that they don't need a license, but you're going to get them anyway. And you're like, fuck, man, it's fucking ridiculous.
Horrible.
Free samurai, pardon samurai. Like those guys they should not be going to jail. And I truly hope that President Trump does something.
I know, and I'd like to see the full force of the community come out in the same way they did for Ross, if not more so. Oh my God, like this is even more cut and dry. There's no malintent here that I can see. This is just this is basically a judge and the legal people involved in the legal system not doing their job. Like they did not learn about the subject that they were ruling over at all. You could tell by her, her I don't know what you call it, her own thoughts on the subject, like at the sentencing, the things that she said, that he said, the judge, and I don't know. It's just a shame. We gotta get him out. I don't know how to do that. I think it's always been apparent that there's this huge double standard, though. It's our government's very, very corrupt. That's ultimately why we're here. It's very broken. But I don't really. The hard part is it's really disheartening when you point out like all the different ways that it's broken and manipulated, and I think the way to have a clearer goal in mind is to try to fix the money. Like that is the root cause of most of the corruption and the problems that we face. And if we can get a grasp on that, we can at least swap out fiat currency for Bitcoin wherever possible and get people to ditch the fiat system. Will be in a much better place, and a place where people have at least retained property rights and freedom of speech and wealth and sovereignty.
I say amen to that. And it's like that's the beautiful thing, is that any one of us can opt in at any time and start moving. Jeff Booth is always, I just talked to him earlier this week, and whenever I talk to Jeff, I just leave like buzzing for a few days, being like, okay, I need to be better. I need to be better about moving more of my time and attention into this parallel system and doing whatever I can to spend as much time existing in that parallel system and contributing value to it as possible. Because like that is ultimately, I don't think the beast gets fixed from inside the beast. You know what I mean? I think the beast has to be drained of blood by another system, basically just sucking it dry, sucking the monetary energy, sucking the intellectual talent, sucking all of the good parts of this system that are currently, encased in this fucking, I don't know, wall of shit, whatever you want to call the fiat panopticon is becoming, and moving that into this parallel system. And the more time and energy and attention and economic power that moves into this parallel system, the stronger it becomes, and the less powerful this existing entrenched power structure becomes. And so it's like it's incumbent on each of us to just do what you can, figure out how you can move a little bit more time and a little bit more attention and a little bit more energy over to the parallel system every day. And if you can do that, like you are actually, like it's like the meme, like I'm doing my part, but really like that's how you do your part. You do your part just by acting and choosing to act every day and making individual subjective value judgments. And you make the world just like a little bit of a better place by putting more of your energy into the better system, the fairer system. And that's like, it gives me hope. Like this is why conferences are great, because you get to hang out with a bunch of Bitcoiners and see what they're doing in that lane, right? See what they're doing to make that parallel system better. But I don't think the system can fix itself from within the system, right? Like I think Bitcoin helps externally, not so much internally. Like it only helps internally in that it will help accelerate the existing system's demise, I think. Like I don't think Bitcoin can save the existing system. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think well, I think both things are true. Like there's one just kind of like opt out on all fronts, preserve yourself, like put on your oxygen mask before helping others. But once you're in a stable place, you have a good stack, and you kind of, there's a really big question that everyone has to answer for themselves, which is like, what do you do with your time? You have all this wealth, like how are you going to live your life? How are you going to get healthy? How are you going to, promote your own production of your own genes and longevity, and inhibit kind of bad things from happening around you and the people around you. And it's like you have to go out and like exemplify that life. And I think part of that means actually interacting with a lot of normal people, and leading by example. Like in my immediate friend group, the people I spend the most physical amount of time with, they don't have any Bitcoin. They're increasingly interested in it. They have a lot of questions just by virtue of like being around me a little bit. I don't promote it in front of them. They just like happen to know what's up. And they see, you know what I mean? They see like a level of kind of like clarity of vision. They see an inherent skepticism of, they've been, repeating the company lines, the government lines for a long time. They'll see that I don't tolerate it at all. I'll just be like, so lies. Actually, you know what I mean? Like you're the odd one out when you're the Bitcoiner in your group of like normie friends. But I think that's important. I don't think it's a good idea to reject them completely because they're good people. They're just not there yet. And you can only get them there by leading by example and succeeding. And your success, like they will try on your ideas and beliefs to try to replicate that. So I think it's important to like get out your local community, and spend time with those people. Mm-hmm.
I totally agree with that. Like there's a lot of good people out there who just you need to hand them an orange pill and eventually they'll take it on their own. But there's a lot of people that are very much worth saving out there, and can't save everyone, but like you're right. Once you get to a certain point, it's like, what are you going to do? Like, what are you going to do with yourself? You're going to retreat back and never talk to anyone ever and just guard yourself away in your citadel. Like, it sounds kind of nice, but it's also like we need people. Like you want you want good people to be with you on this journey through this fucking fourth turning. You want people to come out the other side with that aren't going to come, to the gates of your citadel with pitchforks and be like, we got to burn this motherfucker down because there's this fat cat Bitcoiner in there. Like, no, that's why you need to get as many people on board with Bitcoin as possible. Because when things get really dark, you don't want them to be like, that's the fucking Bitcoiner. It's all his fault. Elizabeth Warren told me so. Like, you don't want to get to that place. You know what I mean?
No, I think it's going to be, the transition's a little bit hard. You're going to lose some friends over it. It happens. I think just even the whole Trump grift of like the last couple of years, definitely got a lot of people that are like, oh, you're a Republican. Like they just make the assumption, you're a Republican, you're a big Trump guy. It's like, I actually never voted in my life. It couldn't be further from the truth. So don't know what you're talking about, but they're like everyone at any given time. I would like urge people to not think in terms of like ultimatums and like non-redemptive paths. Like everyone is not either good or bad. Like if you're a Bitcoiner, everyone's either their actions are net positive or negative for Bitcoin or neutral at any given time. It's not forever. Like Trump will not always be good for Bitcoin. There's some days he does things that are really the antithesis of what we're going for. It's the same with, Howard Lutnick. It's the same with, pick your favorite CEO in the space. It's a double-edged sword. It's just like we're all humans, we're all fallible. So it's just at any given time. This is also like the editorial thesis that Roxxam as a media company is founded on. It's like everything that happens is, might not all be directly related to Bitcoin, but it's probably good or bad for it in some way. So rather than red versus blue, that's the lens that we take on things. Obviously, we want to point out those things that are good for it, but we understand we're not going to endorse political candidates because they're not always going to be good for it. They're going to do some things that are good and some things that are bad, and we should be able to talk about and weigh those things, as we go.
Amen to that. And I think that's a perfect note to end on, McShane. Where do you want to send people?
You can send them to roxxam.tv. Yeah, watch the stream. Watch Walker on stream. It's really good. Yeah, every Tuesday at 1 p.m. ESTM on that Roxxam stream. So yeah, come hang out. But dude, I'm glad we got a chance to do this. It's been long overdue. Great catching up a bit. And yeah, I would also, just to echo your last message, remember that like
You don't need to get sucked into this red-blue political dichotomy wherever you happen to be in the world. Like everyone wants to force a binary on you. Everyone. There's a non-binary joke here somewhere, but yeah, I'll leave it at that, and I'll just say, like, remember that, like, there is a third path, and Bitcoin represents that third path, and you can meaningfully take steps down that path at any time. Try to do your best not to rage quit, because when you rage quit, you end up with less Bitcoin. You don't want that to happen. So try to stay cheerful, stay optimistic, and spend more time with Bitcoiners whenever you can, because generally that makes me more cheerful and optimistic. And if you can't do that in the meat space, you should probably just start a Bitcoin podcast, because then you get to do stuff like this. So it's a win-win there. But dude, great hanging with you. Thanks to everyone who joined on the Nostr live stream. Appreciate you guys. See you next time. Cheers, McShane.
Catch you later.